I wouldn't call him pretty, but some women call Chris Brown pretty.
He's a perfect example.
He used to be. I don't think he's as pretty now, but he used to be. I see the pretty privilege early on.
You never know what battles, demons, trauma somebody's facing.
Right.
In that moment, your rational brain just completely turns off. You immediately go into
Fight or flight.
No, that does not. That does not excuse a man.
I'm not excusing his behavior. I'm not excusing his behavior.
I'm sorry, but in that
It's not
same
an excuse. But at the end of the day, like the whole thing about keeping your hands to yourself is that you have no idea how that person is going to react.
Pretty privilege also benefit men. And I would say that is definitely true. Trey Songz is a perfect example of that because he has so many allegations against him of, sexual assault. And no one's really talking about it. No one's really not, he's still finding his way in these social groups. Women still flock to him. Women still get on his tour bus. So how do y'all feel about male pretty privilege? Who can you think of that benefits from male pretty privilege?
I mean, if they're into him, like I wouldn't call him pretty, but some women call Chris Brown pretty.
He's a perfect example.
He used to be. I don't think he's as pretty now, but he used to be. I see the pretty privilege early on.
Yeah, and then who else? What's his name? Shamar Moore used to get like that, and I don't see it either. I mean, I'm not saying he's an ugly, like not attractive guy, but like he was. Like,
he's definitely attractive, but I don't know what privilege comes along with Shamar. But maybe Boris.
I mean, everyone's go-to.
I mean, but we have to compare. Like they've done nothing to say, okay, they got away with something.
Yeah.
So maybe we should think along the lines of, because even Chris Brown, when he went through that incident with Rihanna, he got it bad. Don't think that he was just, people hated him for a couple of years.
Did they?
They did. Yes, he was being fun of for I don't know how old you. Listen, baby, they were in for his for at least 2 or 3 years, and then he came out with that album, that "Look at Me Now" album, and it kind of brought him back up after he did that Michael Jackson tribute. But people were hating him for a minute with the Rihanna situation.
I feel like I'm gonna have to hold Black women accountable. All I saw was Black women running to his. Not all, but it was a lot, and I know that because whenever I would go in our own spaces and try to say something, I would get cursed out. They'll be like, you just making up excuses. She put her hands on him first. And they're like making excuses for him. I'ma still listen to Chris Brown. Like there were so many Black women coming to his defense. And I think it was because of how he looks. And they also was like, we can't tear down a talented Black man. But I also think that his looks played a very big part because a lot of women fawned over Chris Brown.
Well, I think one of the issues was kind of like this young lady. I think that Chris Brown had a history similar to this young lady. I don't know her. I didn't know Chris Brown's story about there being domestic abuse in the home. They witnessed that growing up. And so the same with this young lady, but it happened a little different. I would say women have got to stop putting their hands on men. Because sometimes there's going to be a reaction. And I think the women who may have stood, I don't know the women who stood for Chris Brown, and I don't even remember the story because my brain just does not work like that anymore. But I'm just going to say, hypothetically speaking, take him out of the situation. If a woman puts her, like this young lady was I saw the video, was putting her hands on this man, and he did an outstanding job restraining himself, not touching her. But
he hit her back.
He
swung on her.
So,
but but she was putting she had man hands.
Yes, she does.
This was like a little. I almost forgot that. If you work for the Braves, I would think that was a dude.
I was looking at her body like, oh yeah, she was built for this. But the main reason I brought Chris Brown up was not just because of like him being blackballed or not, or women coming to his defense, but it was because, how do I say
Go ahead and say it.
Okay, so the point you just brought up, I don't want to butcher it. It's Shantae, right? Not Shantae.
It's Shantae. It's okay.
Okay. The point you brought up about women keeping their hands to themselves. So there was I don't want to call it, there was some buzzing that the reason why things got to the way they did was because Rihanna put her hands on him. So, people take certain other things into consideration when they think about what these say. We're not going down this rabbit hole now, but the whole concept of women keeping their hands to themselves, not conducting yourself as though you feel like you could go toe to toe with a man so that you won't get hit like a man, right?
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. So I may be biased and this may be controversial, but it's like, look, okay, Krishan, she plays football. She's very I wouldn't fight her as a woman because she fights like a man.
Is there anything else I need to know about this young lady? Because she has an outstanding.
You're gonna have to look her up after this because that woman can fight. She has some girl. She mollywopped some girl in the sink and she was beating her ass in the sink. So I would say she hits like a man. So when she hits, you're gonna feel her hit. But I don't believe if Rihanna was just, hitting him, I feel like men should have some type of constraint because they know they're more powerful. I feel like Chris Brown went too far. If you saw Rihanna's face, he went too far. It was like that wasn't like a hit, like get off me hit. That wasn't like a I'ma hem you up hit. That was like I lost control.
I just
wailed on you as a powerful man. Like that's like my son. That I look at women, some women, as a man like me versus like my child. If my child came up and hit me, I'm gonna smack him and let him know I'm stronger than you and don't play with me. But I'm not gonna just keep wailing on him and beating him up because I know that I'm stronger than him. What point? I just lost my sense of control. And I feel like men should have some type of constraint, unless he is in a life-threatening situation. But if a woman slaps you, never talk to her again. Never talk to her again. Call the cops. Do something.
Yeah, so I know that I agree.
Here's the thing with that, right? Is you never know what battles, demons, trauma somebody's facing.
Right.
In that moment, your rational brain just completely turns off. You immediately go into
fight. No, that does not. That is not excuse a man.
I'm not excusing his behavior. I'm not excusing his behavior.
I'm sorry, but in that same,
not an excuse. But at the end of the day, the whole thing about keeping your hands to yourself is that you have no idea how that person is going to react.
Right.
It could be a life or death situation. You don't know because in that moment, is that person in their body and cognizant of what they're doing? You don't know the answer to that. So better keep your hands to yourself instead of risking your life. It's not to say that there's any excuse for him not having any restraint or self-discipline or understanding what the dynamic is. I'm not excusing his behavior at all. But if you cannot predict how that person is going to react, don't do it. Right.
Okay.
And I think that
I agree with that.
accountability in one direction.